Okay, let's dive in. Today we're focusing on a single source, a truly compelling personal story about learning English vocabulary, not just, efficiently, but meaningfully.
Yeah, it follows this woman, Anna, who moved to London. Big dreams, but she quickly found her basic English just wasn't cutting it for everyday life. Her journey is really less about hitting the books and more about weaving language into her actual life.
Exactly. So our mission in this deep dive is to take this source and this very personal experiment and pull out the universal nuggets. The struggles, the breakthroughs, the methods that really move the needle for her. What can you take away from her experience to unlock your own vocabulary potential? So the story kicks off with Anna landing in East London, full of ambition, wants to be a tour guide, right? But she hits that wall pretty fast.
Right. The source paints a very, very relatable picture there. Her sort of textbook English, it just wasn't enough for chatting at the supermarket or, with neighbors. That moment she didn't understand receipt at the checkout.
Yeah.
Wow. It's just the perfect example of that gap, isn't it? Classroom versus reality.
Oh, yeah, that feeling of being totally lost by one simple word. It's so frustrating. And for Anna, that was like the turning point.
It really was. She just decided, okay, no more guessing, no more feeling scared. I need to learn this stuff and fast. And she didn't just say it. She put structure around it immediately with what she called her 7-day vocabulary challenge.
A whole week dedicated to changing her approach. So what was the core idea for those first few days?
Day one, the absolute foundation was just brutal practicality.
Hmm.
Focus only on words she needed right now. Supermarket stuff, bus directions, talking to neighbors. She wasn't learning like abstract concepts. She was learning aisle, change, exit.
Learning the landscape around her.
Exactly. And a really key thing wasn't just finding these words maybe from an app or hearing them, but using them right away, saying, I lost my receipt out loud, even just whispering, where is the exit? It was about producing the words, not just recognizing them right from the get-go.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Actually, using the word connects it to your own voice, your own situation.
Which flows straight into her big realization on day two. She noticed she was still translating everything in her head, like when she thought apple. The Polish word jabłko popped up first, and that step, that translation, it just slowed everything down.
Ah, the dreaded internal translator. We've all been there.
Precisely. So she decided to try and bypass it. Her method, pictures, just printing out images of words she knew like milk, juice, toothbrush, towel, and sticking them around her flat without the Polish word. Her fridge basically became this giant visual flashcard.
That's actually really clever. You're forcing your brain to connect the English word straight to the thing itself, the image.
Yeah, it trains your brain to think in pictures linked to the English word, cutting out that native language middleman. The source says pretty simply, it worked.
Okay, so she's got this foundation, practical words, immediate use, visual links. How does she build on that? Get more creative with it.
Day three brought in the power of stories, narrative. Anna wanted the words to live outside of lists, to be part of her actual experience. So the idea was making up simple stories using the new vocabulary.
Even if they were a bit silly.
Especially if they were silly. There's this story about going to the supermarket using words like milk, bread, change, and receipt, and somehow ending up locked in a storage room. The source points out that making up a story, even a ridiculous one, made the words part of her world. It gave them context, made them easier to remember. Our brains just seem wired for stories, right?
Using narrative as a memory hook. Smart. What other sort of active practice did she find useful?
Day four is quite revealing, actually. It's just the simple act of speaking out loud, even when she was alone. The source gives this lovely little detail of her chatting to her cat, Mr. Buttons, while making tea.
Huh. Poor Mr. Buttons. Must learn some English, too.
Maybe. But the principle behind it is solid. Hearing her own voice saying the words, it cemented them differently than just thinking them or writing them down. It's like physicalizing the language, building that muscle memory in your mouth.
Yeah, it shifted from passive knowing to active doing.
Then day 5, she took a classic tool, flashcards, and gave it an upgrade. She added layers. So each card had the word okay, but also a picture, a short sentence using the word, and an emoji for the feeling connected to it.
Adding context and emotion that fits with the story idea too.
Totally. And the real twist was how she used them. She didn't just flip through them, she acted them out, made faces, used gestures. If the word was, say, nervous, she'd actually bite her nails, say the sentence, I feel nervous before a test, and link it to that nervous emoji. It turned studying into a kind of game, made it way more engaging.
So activating more senses, linking words to actions and feelings, makes sense.
Which leads us right into day 6. Listen plus repeat muscle memory. She'd listen to podcasts or simple stories, hit pause, and repeat sentences out loud. Not just once, but 3 times.
3 times. That specific number. Why the repetition, do you think?
The source really emphasizes this feeling of it being like exercise for her mouth and her brain. Repeating a phrase like, excuse me, could you tell me where the bus stop is? 3 times built that kind of automatic recall. A bit like how we just know song lyrics without trying. It's about making the sounds feel natural, almost automatic.
Okay, so after 6 days of pretty intense creative effort, day 7 was crunch time. The test.
The confidence test, yeah.
Yeah.
Snipping out, no notes, no apps, just what she'd learn. The source zooms in on her going to a cafe to order coffee.
That's always high stakes for a language learner. Ordering coffee.
Definitely. Hi, I'd like a small black coffee, please. And do you have almond milk? You know, she felt her heart racing, but she managed to use the words she needed in a real situation. And she got her coffee. It was this huge personal win, proof that her methods were actually working.
Must have felt amazing. Such a confidence booster.
Massive. But, you know, the source is clear. The journey wasn't suddenly over. Chapter 2 dives into how she moved beyond that initial challenge, starting with something absolutely crucial, embracing mistakes.
Ah, yes, the classic "do you has almond milk" moment.
That's the one. She made a grammar mistake, felt that flush of embarrassment, but then had this breakthrough thought. Mistakes are actually proof you're trying. She literally adopted a new rule for herself. Mistakes mean I'm learning. And it wasn't just a nice idea, she really leaned into it.
Turning a negative into a positive learning signal.
And she made it concrete, tangible, with her notebook of mistakes. She'd write down the wrong sentence, then the correction, then she'd add a funny drawing like that cow wearing sunglasses for the almond milk incident, and write a new example sentence. It became, as she called it, her favorite teacher, tracking her progress through her errors.
That's brilliant. Tangible proof of learning through, well, not being perfect. How did she apply this new mindset out in the world?
It really fueled her commitment to what she called mini conversations, a new habit. Just one tiny conversation every day. At the bus stop, in the park, at the shop. The source gives this example of helping a mom whose kid dropped a toy. Just a couple of sentences exchanged. But it felt huge because she was using the language with real people.
Using it, not just studying it. Doesn't have to be some long, deep talk.
Exactly. And this naturally led to what she called her magic method, the 3x3 rule.
Right. Learn 3 new words in the morning. Use each one 3 times during the day.
Simple, actionable, and you can track it. Words like polite, delay, enjoy. If she managed to use them all, 9 times throughout the day, she felt like she'd won the day. It shifted the focus from these overwhelming, endless lists to achievable daily wins.
Winning the day with vocabulary. I really like that framing. It makes it feel manageable.
And the 3x3 rule got even stronger when she connected with a learning buddy, Lena, from Brazil. They shared the struggle, which is huge, and used the 3x3 rule together via text messages. They called it English tennis, patting sentences back and forth.
Ah, so a shared goal, accountability. Learning becomes social.
Yeah, sharing the load, sharing the wins. It just made it more fun and less isolating. The source shows them texting words like awkward, remind, and borrow back and forth, making them stick through that playful interaction.
Community reinforcing the structure.
Yeah.
Did she keep exploring the power of emotion?
Oh, definitely. Especially on days when motivation was low. She'd go back to acting out words, but with really intense feelings, jumping around excitedly for excited or yawning dramatically for bored.
Was Mr. Button still sticking around for these performances?
The source kind of hints he might have made himself scarce, but the principle is sound. Linking words to strong emotions makes them way more memorable. It creates a deeper mental imprint than just repeating them blankly.
Emotion as a memory anchor.
Got it.
And all these little efforts, these different methods, they built up towards those crucial small wins.
Yeah, like going to a language exchange cafe, managing to introduce herself, and then getting that compliment, wow, your English is really good. The source describes her literally dancing in her room afterwards. Those moments, even if her English wasn't objectively perfect, they validated all the effort and courage.
Validation is such a powerful fuel for motivation, isn't it?
Absolutely. She also started broadening her horizons for where she got her vocabulary, moving beyond structured lessons to getting vocabulary from music and movies. Watching Disney movies with the subtitles on, pausing to grab words.
Like for Moana, words like voyage, brave, ocean, destiny.
Exactly. And she wouldn't just write them down, she'd use them creatively, maybe write a little poem incorporating them. It wasn't just passive watching. She was actively pulling out language from real, authentic sources and using it. That shift from just studying English to starting to live it.
Integrating it fully into her world.
And all this preparation, all these experiences, they culminated in what the source calls the turning point.
The moment she actually helped that lost tourist at the train station.
Yes. A tourist asks for directions to Tower Bridge. Anna feels that familiar wave of panic, but this time, instead of freezing, she accesses everything she's built, her practiced phrases, her confidence from the small wins, her willingness to just try. And she gives clear directions.
A proper real-world test of fluency and practical application. Spontaneous use.
And she nailed it. The source really captures her feeling powerful after that. She realized the vocabulary wasn't just abstract knowledge, it was a tool. A tool that let her connect with people, help them. That's a big shift.
Okay, so the story gets even deeper, moving into chapter 3, which the source calls Words from the Heart, Lessons from the Street. What was she noticing about which words were really sticking?
She started realizing that the words she remembered best weren't always the ones from her lists, but the ones tied to a specific feeling or a moment or a person, like awkward because of some embarrassing interaction, or delicious from a really nice meal she shared, or borrow from that texting game with Lena.
Vocabulary charged with personal meaning. It makes sense.
Yeah, and this insight actually changed her method again. She moved from words to memories. Basically, she ditched the sterile vocabulary lists and started writing mini stories or journal entries that used the new words, even if the stories themselves were a bit nonsensical.
Like that roommate story using ridiculous, mess, and wrong.
Exactly. The whole drama about finding socks, the roommate's comment, her own reaction weaving ridiculous, mess, and wrong into that silly personal story made them stick way better than just memorizing definitions. And she'd read these little stories aloud, really imagining the scene.
Leveraging her own life experiences to anchor the words. And she took this outside too, right? Into the physical world.
Absolutely. Her word walk habit. The streets of London literally became her classroom. Seeing grand on a grand opening sign, caution next to a wet floor, escape in a bookstore window, advertising a novel.
So the real-life context provides instant meaning and relevance.
The source really emphasizes this, that real life was the best teacher because the words were seen and felt right there in their natural habitat. It wasn't abstract anymore, it was immediate.
Turning everyday life into a continuous learning opportunity. Very efficient.
She also pushed herself by connecting with locals more intentionally. Joining a book club was a big challenge because she felt her vocabulary for discussing literature was limited. But when they asked her to share her thoughts on the book, she pushed through that hesitation.
And found the words she needed when she needed them.
Yes, managing to express herself using words like honest and brave, and someone's genuine compliment afterwards, that was beautifully said, really reinforced the impact of using language to connect on that deeper intellectual level. She said she felt warm all over.
That feeling of being truly understood and validating the effort to express complex ideas.
But it wasn't always smooth sailing. There was also a moment where she just hit a wall, felt totally overwhelmed and like she wasn't progressing. She remembered her mother's advice. When you can't go forward, change the path, but never the goal.
A great reminder to be flexible with your methods, not give up on the main objective.
So she adapted again. She decided to learn fewer words, just 5 a day, but really dedicate her day to them. Words like gentle, trust, struggle, improve, celebrate. She actively looked for ways to use those specific words, embedding them really deeply rather than just skimming over dozens.
Prioritizing depth over breadth when feeling stuck. That's smart.
This also led to a really fun, physical tool or vocabulary box. Just small cards, each with a word, a sentence using it, and crucially, a question using the word to spark conversation or reflection.
Like for challenge, the question might be, what's the biggest challenge in your life right now?
Exactly. She called it her conversation box and her treasure chest. It was this tangible thing that made vocabulary practice interactive and linked words directly to personal thoughts. She also emphasized learning in the real world by volunteering at a community event. That's where she picked up those natural everyday phrases like, oh, let me help you with that, or thanks so much for your patience, the kind of language you absorb by doing, not just by reading.
Learning the actual language of human interaction, not just the dictionary definitions.
And all these different threads, the personal stories, the street learning, the connections, the box, they all wove together to create this profound shift. The feeling of belonging. The city that once felt so foreign and maybe intimidating started to feel familiar, like home, because she could understand more, participate more, feel more confident. Confidence built connection, and connection built that sense of belonging.
The story reaches a really interesting point in Chapter 5 called Becoming English from the Inside Out. What marks this big shift?
It's pinned to a specific moment. She dropped a knife in the kitchen and spontaneously muttered, "Oh no, not again." Not translating it from Polish first, just saying it. Directly in English. Without thinking.
Whoa. English just coming out naturally, reflexively.
Yeah, it was the first time she consciously realized she wasn't just speaking English anymore. She was starting to think in English. The language was becoming internal, part of her inner chatter. The source notes she started noticing random English thoughts popping into her head about a red car driving past, or which aisle she needed in the grocery store, or just internally complaining, this line is taking forever.
English becoming family, as the source puts it so nicely.
And she didn't just let it happen passively. She actively encouraged this inner shift through what the source calls the secret, talking to yourself. Specifically, doing mirror conversations.
Yeah.
Literally standing in front of the mirror, asking herself questions about her day and answering them out loud in English.
Focusing on just fluency and getting the thoughts out, even if the grammar wasn't perfect.
Exactly. And this internal practice became so ingrained, she even started having dreams in English. Her roommate apparently found this hilarious, but for Anna, it was powerful confirmation that the language was integrating on a really deep subconscious level.
It was truly becoming part of her. What about that inner voice when things, went wrong, like daily frustrations?
The source shares a really striking example. She spilled some tea. Her first automatic inner reaction was that harsh, self-critical voice we all have sometimes. Why are you always so clumsy? But then she consciously chose to respond to herself kindly in English. Hey, mistakes happen. It's okay.
Wow, that's deep. Learning a language and simultaneously retraining your inner self-talk, using English for self-kindness.
It showed her that language wasn't just for talking to others. It shaped her internal world, too. She also brought in the 5-minute rule. First thing after waking up, just think in English for 5 minutes. About anything.
Like a gentle warm-up for the English part of her brain.
Yeah, it helped her thoughts flow more easily in English later in the day. Words came faster. The language wasn't something she had to consciously switch on each morning. It was already sort of simmering. She also developed this technique of thinking with pictures and words for moments when she didn't know a specific word. Instead of grasping for the Polish translation, she'd visualize the concept, like picturing someone climbing up something if she couldn't recall the word ladder.
Thinking in concepts, bypassing translation altogether.
And doing inner monologue walks, just walking through the park, describing things to herself in her head, or imagining she was giving a tour, basically creating fluency practice even in silence.
All this internal work must have had a huge impact on her actual speaking, right?
It really did. The source notes she started having fewer pauses when she spoke. She wasn't searching for words as much, and she felt less anxious about making mistakes. She was building fluency from the inside out.
And the ultimate proof, I guess, came with that compliment at the cafe.
Yes, that amazing moment. You speak so naturally. Are you from here? Being mistaken, even briefly, for a native speaker, or at least someone who spoke English effortlessly. The message was crystal clear. Her English now sounded like it truly lived inside her.
Now, Chapter 8 marks another big shift, doesn't it? Moving from learner towards something else, the English stage.
Yeah, it starts with her seeing this flyer for an open mic night. The theme was your language journey. And it presented this simultaneously terrifying and exciting idea. Could she actually get up and share her story? Publicly.
That takes guts, but looking back through her notebook, seeing all those mistakes turned into lessons, the silly stories, the small wins, it gave her the courage. She wrote this simple, powerful script, focusing on her core message. English is not about being perfect. It's about being brave.
Practicing it, her voice probably trembling at first, but growing stronger. Then the night itself arrived.
Stepping onto that small stage, microphone, spotlight, heart must have been pounding.
Totally. And she shared it all, the shy beginning in London, the methods she discovered, like using stories and feelings, the importance of getting outside and just doing it, embracing the mistakes, seeing English as a bridge to connect.
And the audience really connected with it, didn't they? They applauded. People came up afterwards.
Yeah, saying things like, "That was beautiful. You gave me courage. Your story is my story." A teacher even invited her to come speak to their class. That night, her reflection was really profound. She realized she wasn't just learning English anymore. She was using it to inspire others. Her little whisper to herself captured it. English is not just what I learn, it's who I'm becoming.
That realization seems to have sparked something new, leading into Chapter 9, sharing the journey, or from learner to teacher.
Exactly. The idea wouldn't leave her. What if I could help other people learn this way through stories, through lived experience, making it feel less intimidating? She started looking at existing online resources and felt something was missing, that focus on slow, gentle, real learning, not just grammar rules and tests.
And that sparked the vision for her own YouTube channel, English with Anna. Stories, steps, and smiles.
Her first step was just recording that initial video, voice trembling, hitting publish, then that awful waiting silence, followed by the very first comment. Thank you. I understood everything. Your story is like mine.
Wow, that one comment must have meant everything. Enough validation to keep going.
It was the first real sign from the outside world that her approach, her personal story, actually resonated with others. So she kept going, posting videos, sharing her methods, using stories, connecting words to feelings, adding simple visuals, grounding vocabulary in real moments she'd experienced.
And the message spreads. Comments started pouring in from different countries. She realized this whole thing was becoming bigger than her. She wasn't just sharing tips. She was becoming a guide, maybe even a leader, helping build confidence for other learners around the world.
The source really highlights this identity shift. She wasn't just Anna the learner anymore. She was actively helping others navigate their own English journeys.
But even with this growing success, the path wasn't always smooth. Chapter 10 talks about the wall and the window.
Yeah, the wall was that creeping self-doubt. The channel wasn't growing super fast. And then she got a really harsh comment. Your accent is strange. Ouch. She felt that familiar sense of emptiness, started questioning if she was really cut out for this.
But then came the window, the letter from Brazil.
Yes, an email from a woman named Carla saying she couldn't afford English classes, but Anna's slow, story-based videos were incredibly helpful and the only way she could learn. That message just sliced right through the doubt. It reminded Anna why she'd started in the first place for people exactly like Carla, who needed that accessible, human, encouraging approach.
The window showing her the real impact, beyond just views or comments.
She literally went back to her notebook and wrote down why I teach, listing her core motivations. And then she recorded this really raw, unedited video talking about hitting that wall of doubt. Sharing her vulnerability actually connected her even more deeply with her audience. And she used the experience to teach words like doubt, purpose, message, window, and wall in a truly authentic context.
Reconnecting with her why seemed to fuel more creativity in Chapter 11, the magic of story layers.
Yeah, she remembered loving these childhood books where stories were nested inside other stories. It gave her an idea. What if she embedded vocabulary lessons within a larger narrative? Create a main character, Mia, who meets different people, and their mini-stories would naturally introduce and repeat new words.
Like Mia meeting Leo, the street artist. And through his little story, the viewer learns words like mural, passion, calm, and hope.
Exactly. Embedding the words naturally, repeating them through the dialogue, and then adding interactive questions for the viewers, asking them to practice speaking by answering things like, what color makes you feel calm?
Making it active and personal for the viewer, not just passive listening.
And the response to this new layered story method was immediate and really positive. Viewers said the words were easier to remember that way, and the questions actually got them speaking. It wasn't just about vocabulary lists, it was about connection, emotion, all layered together through story.
Chapter 12 brings in the reality check of life outside language learning. finding the flow in the chaos.
Yeah, life just got busy, family stuff, another job, health things cropping up. The pressure she put on herself to make every video perfect started leading to burnout.
She hit another kind of wall, just sheer exhaustion and overwhelm.
Taking a moment, just walking in the park, observing how nature works steadily, consistently, not frantically, she had a realization. Her own creative process and learning itself needed that same steady rhythm. Consistency and presence were more important than chasing perfection or speed.
Small steps, big impact. So her new plan became, okay, shorter videos are fine, simpler stories work, build in actual rest days, ask for help when needed, letting go of the pressure.
And true to form, she shared this struggle too. She made an honest video about burnout and finding a sustainable pace. That vulnerability, again, just resonated so deeply with her audience, showing the real person behind the lessons.
Which leads naturally into chapter 13, highlighting that it's also about growing together.
She really started seeing her teaching as a two-way street, reading all the comments, noticing recurring questions or struggles people shared. She wanted to create a space where they could interact more directly.
Which led to starting live online sessions for speaking practice.
Exactly. Creating this really supportive atmosphere where the main rule was mistakes are friends. Using stories and questions in the live sessions, getting viewers to repeat phrases, answer questions, even create their own sentences right there. The energy was apparently really warm and encouraging.
And she actively learned from each other too, right? Featuring viewers' own clever learning tips.
Yeah, like Carlos from Mexico sharing how he practiced by talking to his dog, or Yuki from Japan talking about using karaoke songs. She started featuring these stories, expanding the circle, making it clear that everyone was learning together and had wisdom to share. It became a real community.
Chapter 14 revisits that core theme, but this time on a more public stage. Embracing mistakes again.
Yeah, one of her videos got some mixed comments, people pointing out pronunciation errors or maybe technical issues with the video itself. Her first reaction was understandable disappointment.
But she drew on her own mantra, her own journey, and faced criticism with courage. She chose to see the comments not as attacks, but as feedback, as opportunities to improve, like Maya suggesting a different way to explain something, or Tom offering audio tips.
She used it as a chance for turning challenges into growth. She actually re-edited the video, simplified things, got some help, and publicly thanked the viewers for their constructive feedback. And then she made a whole video specifically about that process, titled Learning from Mistakes.
Doubling down on that powerful message. Making mistakes isn't failure, it's just part of the process. Essential even. Finding strength in imperfection became almost her brand, being real. Sharing behind-the-scenes stuff, even bloopers. It built incredible trust through authenticity. And all of this, the journey, the teaching, the community, it culminated in chapter 15, the breakthrough moment.
The big email arrived, an invitation to speak at a major online language learning conference. A direct result, really, of her unique story-based approach and the community she'd built.
Wow. A dream come true for someone who started out just trying to order coffee.
Absolutely. Preparing for it, she drew on all the lessons her journey had taught her. Be authentic, share the struggles as well as the successes, focus on inspiring others, not just instructing them.
Sharing her story on that big virtual stage, calm, confident, reaching thousands of learners. The impact was huge. Her message resonated deeply.
That moment really solidified her understanding of the immense power of stories, not just to teach vocabulary, but to connect people, to teach empathy, to inspire action. It wasn't just about English anymore. It was about human connection facilitated by language. This marked a new chapter for her, opening doors to bigger dreams, maybe writing that book, creating a full course, who knows?
Wow, what an incredible journey. So much packed in there. So let's try and boil it down, bringing it all together for you, the listener. What are the absolute key takeaways from Anna's transformation?
Okay, first, start with your immediate needs. Focus on words for your real life right now. Second, use diverse multisensory methods, picture, stories, sound, emotion, definitely acting things out. Third, actively produce the language from day one. Speak aloud, even to yourself. Have those mini conversations. Use simple structures like that 3 by 3 rule to make it manageable.
Right. And embrace mistakes. They are fundamental to learning. Your own notebook of mistakes can be your progress tracker. Connect with other learners. It makes it more effective, less lonely, and honestly, more fun. Find and develop your personal magic methods. Maybe it is music for you, or walks, or talking to your cat, or thinking visually like Anna did.
Yeah, and be authentic. Be real about your journey. Share your struggles if you connect with others. Vulnerability builds connection. And maybe most importantly, persistence. Guided by your why, your purpose, that's what gets you through the inevitable moments of doubt or hitting a wall.
Absolutely. At its core, Anna's story really shows us that learning English isn't just, school subject. It's a tool for connection, for expression, and ultimately it becomes part of who you are. It's about finding your voice in this new language. So if learning English truly is about more than just collecting words, if it's about finding your voice and connecting with the world around you, here's a little something for you to think about. What is one small, brave step you can take this week, inspired by Anna, to move from just studying English to truly living it? Maybe it's just trying that 5-minute mirror conversation tomorrow morning. Or picking 3 words you need and making it your mission to use them 3 times tomorrow. Or maybe just noticing the English signs on your walk home. Pick one small thing. Start living your English today.